This is a short presentation of the collection of timesheets using the timesheet controller system. Now, this can be used either purely as a timesheet system in its own right, or in conjunction with the main contract controller system. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, I've set up two individual PCs running the scanning software, and then we have the main system connected to the contract controller system. So these scanning points are just basically a cheap PC with a monitor, a screen, and a very basic scanning unit. You can have a label printer attached to it as well if required, so you can print out barcodes. Although generally your barcodes will be printed out from the main system and attached to the sheets that the employees are scanning as they're working on. But there may well be a time where they need to print an extra label, and you can do that from each of these individual scanning points. You can have as many of these points on the system as you require. They're not linked to contract controller. They have to be linked onto your network because they're sending a signal from the PC to the main system, and the main system is also collecting information from them. So as long as they're on the network, that's all that the requirement is needed. And as I say, they can be any basic PC, as long as it's running a minimum operating system of Windows 10. It can be any low spec PC, a second-hand PC or whatever. So I've set one individual PC up and I called it the workshop, and I've set up another one, the machine shop, and then we have the production manager in the office. So if I just flick to one of these, so the workshop scanner is there, it's waiting to collect the next scan, and we currently have Richard and Howard logged on. These are the jobs they're currently working on. So that is basically this machine. Then if I go to the machine shop scanner, so we have various people looking on. So we've got Archie and Barry clocked on this particular scanner. So that is that PC there. And then the production manager is this screen here. So you can see now that I've instantly got information from both of those independent scanning machines showing that Richard, Barry, Howard and Archie are currently clocked in, and I can actually see what jobs they're working on from within here. We've also got a fire roll call facility on that. So if we need to evacuate the building for whatever reason, either the production manager or whoever can just click the fire roll. We'll just print that onto screen. So we get a listing of who's currently in the building and which collection point that they were scanning on from. Similarly, that can be done from each scanning station as well. So if I go to the machine shop scanner, I can then click the fire call, preview on screen. But obviously that's only printing the listing of people that are on that particular area. So to demonstrate the scanning of this, if I go to, say, the workshop scanner, we can see that Richard and Howard are currently working. So if I just take basic scanner for that, and then I scan the job that they're working on. Now, if they scan out of sequence, the system will tell them. At the moment, it's saying scan your employee card. Now, if I was to scan the contract first, it tells you it's the incorrect scan order. So they have to scan who they are. So if we scan Howard, it then now tells me to scan the contract barcode. So we scan the code, and it now records the fact there, and it will automatically log Howard off from whatever he was working on before. So he was working on the new manager's office, item 111-1, between 10:44 and 12:26, a total hours of 1 hour 42, and it's now said he's working on that one. If I go back to my production manager screen, I can see that he's now logged on to that particular job. He's logged off the new manager's office. Similarly, If one of them's to log off, if I go back to the workshop scanner and say that Howard actually decides that he's clocking off for the day. So if we find Howard's badge, and then we clock off, you can then see that he's now clocked off from there, so he's no longer in the building. If I go back to my manager screen, you can now see that he's now missing from that list. So other areas of the scanning points from within here, if I needed to print another barcode, so we've got our barcodes printed to our sheets that they're scanning, so the cutting sheet. If for whatever reason that was lost, and it says a Sunday morning when there's no office staff available to print a label, you can go to access to print barcodes. This will give you a list of all the current contracts that are running. You can then double click on the relevant contract. We click for 141, and then that shows all the items on the contract as well. And then we can just select the item that we wanted. It will then give the barcode, and I could then print the barcode out, and then we could carry on working from in there. Go back to the general settings and go back to the scanner collections. The other areas that we have on here is we can set the system to alert for time breaks, be it tea breaks, lunch times, or whatever. So in our system settings, we can set clocking on time, morning tea, lunchtime, afternoon tea, clock off. So at the moment I've got lunchtime set for 1 o'clock. It's now 12:29. Just to demonstrate this, I'm going to say that lunchtime is going to be at 12:31 p.m. For, let's say, just say for 5 minutes, very short lunchtime. So the alarm will sound at 12:31 and then stay alerted to us the fact that it's lunchtime for 5 minutes. So I click finished. So we come back to there. So we'll come back to this in a minute because we should see an alert message saying that it's now lunchtime, but you'll still be able to scan. It doesn't stop anybody working or scanning from there. So if we go back to our main system, so as jobs are being scanned, the system will pick up from that. So if I go to a particular job and then go to my production status, we can then see at what point these various items are at. So we can see that the sales counter has been through setting out, and the bench joiner, it's been scanned by a bench joiner, so they're working on that. If we look at the number 11 here, the sales counter, that hasn't been started. So if that was to be scanned, like now I can hear an alarm going off. So if I just go back to my workshop scanner, you can see now that it's typed up saying that it's lunchtime. We can still working, but it's just highlighting the fact, and you can have that siren. Not sure, hopefully you would have heard that siren noise from there. So going back to looking at our contract, so if I want to see at what stage an item is, so we look at 14111 sales counter. At the moment it's scheduled to start on the 4th and nothing has happened. But let's say we're going to put it through setting out, and then we'll put it through machining. So I go to one of my scanner stations. So we'll use, say, the machine shop scanner, and then we scan, or the operator scans who they are. So they all have their identity badge with the barcode of who they are and what operation they're doing. They can have multiple operations. So we might have Archie Davis that does machining and bench. So he will have a badge for his machining and he will have a badge for his bench. So the system knows what operation he's doing and on what contract. So if Barry is going to start setting this item out, he will scan his ID card. So you'll see it's now loaded Barry. So we now have to scan the contract barcode. So he then scans the contract that he's going to be working on. So if I scan that code, we can see now that he's working on the 14111 reception. So if I come back to my production screen, I'll just come out of this. We can see from here what he's working on. If I now go to that contract and then look at my production status, we should now see that item 11 is now in setting out. It's been scanned, so we know it's reached that far. So to move that on, if we put that into machining, so if I come out of this, go back to one of my scanning stations, and let's pick Archie Davis, and let's pick his machining card. So we scan that, and then he scans the contract. Now if we go back and have a look at that contract, we look at number 11, you can now see that it's machined. So it gives you an idea of where an item is up to through the workshop. We can also then, by double clicking on that, interrogate it further by looking at the detailed cost, and we can see these are the times that have been booked to that from the job. Now they will also be checked by processing. So if I go to the timesheet area, go to timesheets, current scan collections. These are the current scans at the moment. Once we move on to the next day, they will be available for processing. So we have timesheets for posting to job cost. So you will then be able to check these and then post them to the relevant job cost. If I double click on that, we can see the jobs from there. I'm not going to touch on that now. That's a whole another area of the system. But the main objective really is to show how timesheets can be formed simply by scanning an employee barcode in the job they're working on from multiple machines around the building. So we can see this is still showing lunchtime on this particular system. It should go off in a wee while. So that basically is how we're collecting the timesheet data. So we have these independent machines around our factory and workshop collecting that. Again, the beauty of these being independent means that if for whatever reason one should go down, there is still an area where people can go and scan their timesheets to say what they're working on. And as I say, you can have as many of these as you want. You can hear the siren going again. So we can now see that the lunch period is over. And you can set as many time breaks as you want from there. And that is the basic overview of how the timesheet scanners work independently of the main system.